Hello, hi. So today I wanted to go over a few different ways of making a picture and just enjoying the color, the paint, and a few different ways of kind of starting, finding your way in. Okay, so let's just make a beginning here. I've got some watercolor paint already, made quite fluid. So this is gold. It's called gold paint. It's just more like a creamy brown color. So what I thought I would do is use that and maybe some blue, this nice Prussian blue, as a way of starting off our picture. So they're both quite wet, and I've got a sheet of white paper here, and I'm just going to turn this upside down and print it on there. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's kind of a way in anyway. Start. Oh, that's kind of nice. Might do it again here actually. Yeah, and I think this one I'm just going to blow. And that's actually the next thing I wanted to do, was to encourage you to, again, mix up quite a runny consistency of paint. It might be ink or it might be watercolor paint with quite a good bit of water in it, and just to create little splodges by blowing with your, obviously blowing with your mouth, or you could use a straw, but I think there's no need really. Yeah, it's kind of exciting doing that. I'm going to get another color and then I'll move on to the other way I wanted to show you about making a picture. You'll have lots of your own ideas too, I'm sure. Sometimes when you blow, one color goes into another, and here, like the blue and the yellow together make green. And I guess if I could blow that yellow paint towards the red, it might make orange. I'll just do a blob of yellow beside the red. You want your water to be clean and to clean the brush in between each time. Yeah, so that's kind of exciting, isn't it? And when I'll show you one I did earlier actually. This is on heavier paper now, but that's already dry, and I just want to show you what I would do next with something like that. I would maybe get some pens or some crayons as well, maybe. And where I put the crayons, and there it is. Yeah, so I had started colouring in this, just the little gaps, the gaps in between the paint with this green crayon. I could also use a pen. It can be quite a nice exercise to just slowly fill in all the gaps made by the paint. You'd want to find the pens that work, of course. Yeah, so there's a nice space in there. And just to fill in the colours. It's a bit like when you take a line for a walk, and you've got all these spaces that you can colour in then. I kind of like doing that. And then you could go back with the paint again, and you could do another blob of some colour over the top of the dry paint, and see what happens when it merges or doesn't quite. It kind of sits on top of the red there a bit more. But yeah, filling in the spaces, I don't know if I'm really selling that to you, but it's really quite satisfying. I could show you one I've done here. This is kind of one of my crazy evenings. I blew, so put some paint down and did just what I've showed you there, kind of blowing the colour. And then I used paint in between, and you can see in some places I've had to leave a white edge so that the paint doesn't merge. But I think leaving some white spaces is quite nice too. And this is actually a collaged piece. I just did a circle of dots and things and stuck it on sometimes if you've got parts that you're not so keen on, you can just get a new piece of white paper and make another design and stick it on, you know. Or you can use thicker paint like acrylic paint and cover the watercolor with that. Yeah, so that was quite good fun to do. And that's what I'm kind of encouraging you to try out here. But maybe you might use pens and crayons as a way of filling in the gaps, because not everybody's got lots of different paint in their house. And crayons will work just as well. In fact, you could maybe start with crayon, a crayon shape, and then bring the paint up, because the crayon is good for resisting the paint as well. So you could do a shape with the crayon and then bring some paint up around that. And can I blow it again? And then, yeah, just filling in spaces that are made different colors. Okay. It can feel really quite pleasing doing this, you know, and sometimes I can become a bit addicted to this kind of thing and end up spending hours and hours picking whatever colours I want and whatever medium I want. It may be paint or pens or coloured pencils or whatever, and just taking a really long time without really noticing the time passing, just filling in all these spaces and making a whole galaxy of shapes and colours of my own. And then really just letting whatever I want happen on the paper. It feels a bit like what it might be like inside in your mind, you know, all of those colourful shapes and explosions interacting with each other, things going off in our heads. I'm sure that's the kind of things that do happen in our brains, you know, when we have ideas and become creative. We probably do have all of these different patterns and textures and colours shooting off in all directions inside us. That's what I think anyway. Right, and I wanted to show you something else too. Yeah, so that's the one we were working on earlier. And then I had this wrapping paper. And I think this is another quite a nice way of making a picture too, is to stick down a bit of the wrapping paper. It's good if it's got a pattern on it, and it's really good if it's got a pattern that you have the same colour pens as. So I found some pens that are quite similar to the pattern on this paper, similar to the colour of the pattern on this paper, and just using the glue to stick it down there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to so I've got those two bits of pattern paper stuck down, and now I'm going to continue the pattern and make it into whatever pattern I want to make it myself. But to begin, using the paper, using the pattern on the paper as a starting point. And you might fill it in like I have, or you might just leave it as an outline. You could do bits here and there. It's resisting where I've done the glue down. And then there's the other more kind of linear pattern. I'll turn it that way so that I'm not smudging my paint. And I'm going to continue the line of this pattern and create my own shapes from that. And then you could always come back with the colours that you've used over here and fill in the gaps in this pattern with those colours too. Yeah, it just feels like quite a nice way of, just doing something different, a different starting point for a painting. Some red paint into the gap there. Oh, a big blob of water came down there. I might do some red here. And again, I'm going to blow it so that it goes away from that. And I think I might blow the pattern here too, because it was really runny. Yeah, and when that's dry, then you could come back in and do, when it's dry, you could come back and fill it in, fill those spaces in too, maybe with pen or whatever. And then looking at the other one, I want to fill that in with paint. So I've got yellow ochre paint here that looks a little bit like that colour. It might be quite nice to do some painting in the extended bits. You see, okay, yeah. I'm getting a new tripod tomorrow, so it won't be so far away from me, hopefully then. So let's do some ideas. Oh yeah, and there was the head of a bird from wallpaper that I had here. Where's it gone? Oh, here it is. I think I might need to get a new sheet of paper for this. I'll just use this. Okay, so, and I thought for the bird what we could do is we could stick down, it was just a piece of the wallpaper tore off and it was just the head, and I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting, because what we could do with that is, I don't know if I've got much time now, only a few seconds really, but I thought I could make the body of the bird with this nice bright blue paint. Oh, only seconds to go. But you know that you could create your own body.